15 years ago, I was asked to go and work with a program director for a large global organization. My task really was to coach and mentor them to help them to really configure the organizational change and transformation required to take their business to the new future and achieve their vision. So a lot of organizational redesign, a lot of change, a lot of projects, a lot of programs to actually take place. And my job really to help and support and enable them to be really successful. And in the early stages of getting to know each other, we had lots of great conversations and discussions, and I asked lots of questions. And one of the things I like to do is really get the history of the person I'm actually coaching, mentoring. And I asked them to share with me any lessons that they'd learned along the way. And he duly shared lots of key lessons. But one of the stories really stood out for me. And he told this story about a previous program director in the organization who had a great idea, took the idea to the board, sold the idea, got lots of investment and ran this program. But unfortunately, the program actually failed and didn't really deliver any of the benefits, and they were not realized and didn't really add value. So this program director was really, really worried. So he wrote a letter of resignation, and Julie got called for the review meeting with the CEO and the board, and obviously very nervous about his job prospects. And he went to the meeting, and as the meeting unfolded, he got to the point where I thought, right, I need to resign now before they sack me. So he went in his pocket, he took out the letter and handed it to the CEO. He said, look, I understand it's a difficult situation. I thought I was doing the right thing. I initiated this program. We ran lots of projects. Unfortunately, didn't deliver the value we thought. So I understand that I need to go. So here's my letter of resignation. And the CEO paused for a moment and looked at him and said, well, why would I accept that? You just had the most expensive personal development course out of anyone in my organization. If you go and I allow you to resign, or you get sacked and we as a board, we sack you, then where would you go? And the program director thought for a little while, and I thought, well, I'll probably, if I'm honest with you, go to one of the competitions and work with them, because obviously I need to provide a great living for my family and support my family. So yeah, I'd probably go to the competition. So the CEO said, exactly. So why would I want you to go there? So I want you to take the learning from this experience. And it's been hard for all of us. We know it's failed. You obviously need to work on your brand and your reputation in the organization. But let's take these lessons and let's apply them. Obviously, if you do it again, then we'll have another conversation. But if you think about that concept, what that CEO was doing was really looking for the good in the situation. He had a good program director, okay, made a mistake and it failed, but he's a good person and can deliver great value in the future. And what I'd like to talk about today really is this second habit of our applied positive thinking, which is always looking for the good in the situation. When I say always looking for the good, I don't mean we go around in this fantastic fantasy bubble of the world's an amazing place and everything's wonderful and I just need to meditate and do yoga and everything's going to be fantastic. I don't mean that. I mean, it's about balance, isn't it? It's around how do I get healthy balance between a healthy optimism, but a little bit, I suppose, pessimism or reality, and getting that balance right. And it's a bit of an and really. And if we focus too much on the negativity, that's going to get too big. And if we focus on the positivity, that's going to get too big and it's going to get out of balance. And it's really important to think about that balance. And it's a bit like if you think about, as leaders, really, we're drug dealers, aren't we, in terms of what we do. And what I mean by that, of course, is that we create these environments in which people can thrive. And I talk about awakening possibility in people. And what we want to do is try and create this healthy balance between the good drugs in our body and the bad drugs. So obviously cortisol and adrenaline are designed, and in good balance, cortisol and adrenaline are good because they create the energy, they do some good stuff, they get us ready for the fight or flight situation, and they'll drive us to do things. But obviously, if we overdose on the cortisol and adrenaline, and we get this adrenal fatigue, then we're going to go into that negativity. So, going down one way is not good, and we need to get that balance, with the balance of the good drugs, DHEA, the serotonin, the testosterone, the estrogen, all the good stuff, and make sure that's balanced. It's the same with our mindsets. We need to make sure that our mindsets are balanced. And I want to share some ideas and thoughts about how you do that. I was reflecting over the weekend around my grandparents and how they'd gone through some really difficult times as well. And I was reflecting on our situation. And they obviously went through World War II and 6 years. Imagine that, 6 years of rationing and hardship, and your loved ones being away at war. having to bring the family up yourself, and having some really tough decisions to actually make. Certainly in the cities, for example, your children would have been sent away to safety, and so it must have been really, really tough for them. And I know that my grandparents had these amazing sayings. They had things like, every cloud has a silver lining. Do you remember that one? So every cloud has a silver lining, but you still have to go and look for it. So you have to go and look for the good. The other aspect would be things that, things happen for a reason. You remember that quote? And things will pass. And they were very wise, weren't they? They had these amazing quotes, these mantras, if you like, that really helped them through some really difficult times. So one of the things that we can do when we're looking for the good is to think about what are the things that we're saying to ourselves. Am I creating this healthy balance? Am I getting some reality in place? Am I focusing on the positive things? I remember many years ago working for a call center, working with them to help them to look at the engagement and the motivation and the success of their teams. And one of the things I always do when I work in organizations is go around and have a look and observe what they're doing. And I went to the call center, and you imagine the environment, can't you? Lots of call agents around the room with floor walkers and team leaders going around and listening to calls. And one of the things I noticed was that the team leaders, for example, would always go around and they'd only comment on people and give them feedback when something wasn't right. And obviously they need to do that for compliance and to make sure that the customer's getting the right information. Well, I noticed this trend that the only thing they would look for is the negative aspect. And when something went wrong, they go along and say, look, okay, I've just been listening to that call, you need to change that. And I think about that, and that's creating quite a negative culture in it. We're never good enough. And one of the things we did was to help them to get that healthy balance by, yes, go and actually correct things that are going wrong, but also make sure that you point out the good stuff as well and catch them doing good stuff and reinforce that and compliment them, which is another habit later on that we talk about. So it's important to think about that as leaders, and particularly in the situation we're at the moment, is how do we actually create the right chemistry inside our bodies, and how do we make sure that we're not into this adrenaline and cortisol overload and we're in this adrenal fatigue concept. And if we keep doing that, of course, we're actually going to go in a downward spiral. So how do we get that healthy balance between looking at the good stuff and making sure that we're really looking for things that are going well, and what does this opportunity actually give us? And lots of organizations now are taking this time, aren't they, to stop and think and reflect and really think about their purpose. Have we got everything aligned? Do we need this really big head office in the future? This working from home is actually working. How do we get that balance between people working at home and obviously when the restrictions are lifted, to get that balance of actually having that team and that collaboration aspect? So I think it's some really interesting questions around when we're in a situation, how can we stop and think, and how can we actually make sure that we are looking for the good in a situation and saying to ourselves, what will this situation actually give for us? What opportunities do we now have to actually change the way we do things? This ability to be able to stop and think and reflect is so important, and it's very easy to get up on the hamster wheel, isn't it? And we just get into this way of doing things and it becomes automatic, but actually it's good to stop, isn't it, and think and reflect. So I'd urge you to go out there and start to look for the good, and remember that story about the program director, the fact that if we're really good about things, things will go wrong, and they do. I had some toast this morning, and I was butchering a toast, and it fell on the floor. And I don't know about you, but toast always falls butter side down, doesn't it? And actually, I'm trying to cut out bread at the moment, so I actually threw the toast in the bin and just had my banana on its own. And I thought, well, that's good. That's gonna help me. It's I'm trying to cut out the bread and the carbs at the moment anyway. So there's some good in that, and obviously there's a message there. As my grandmother would say, things happen for a reason. So there was obviously a reason that I shouldn't be eating that bread and just having the healthy banana instead. So some good stuff in there. So have a think about your situation. Think about your context. Think about the things that are going on in your life at the moment. What are some of the things that perhaps that are really positive now that weren't? And perhaps the fact that you're spending more time with your loved ones, you're spending more time at home, you've got more time to think and reflect. You're realizing that actually the virtual working is actually working for you. What can this give you? And it's a good chance to stop and reflect and really think about the things that are important for you. So I'll leave you with a final thought. This morning I listened to an amazing piece of music. I think it's quite a new piece of music from Jason Mraz, and it's around looking for the good. Wonderful piece of music. It supports what I've been talking about today. If you're feeling a little bit down, then it's a great piece of music to lift the spirits. And let's go out there and make sure we're looking for the good. And I'll see you tomorrow.